After reading through all the recent comments from our latest videos, it is without question that we were on the same path with our audio journey. It seems like in our youth, at one point, somebody gave us a gift of an all-in-one entry-level system, or maybe a portable radio or a boom box. And then when we turned 16, we got our driver's license, we got a job at Pizza Hut or McDonald's. We knew as soon as we got our first paycheck, we were on our way to the stereo store to get our first receiver. And then after graduating high school, getting out of our parents' house, maybe getting an apartment, got that brand new shiny credit card in our back pocket. We had the thought, is it time? Am I ready? Am I gonna join the cool kids club and finally get those separates that I've always wanted? I've got 3 systems here by 3 iconic manufacturers. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Here we go. And from one of my favorite brands of the 70s, by far, anybody that watches this channel knows that. This is the Harmon Carden 11 and 12. And we actually just sold these to one of our really good customers last week. He came in on Saturday to pick them up, and I asked if he'd do me a favor and just let me keep them an extra couple days. So thank you, John, I appreciate it. This amplifier and preamplifier was manufactured in the mid-70s, definitely the heyday of vintage audio, by Harmon Carden. The Citation 11 was originally $395, and the 12 with 60 watts per channel was $295, or $340 if you wanted the wood cabinet. And if you needed more power, or if you needed something that maybe looked a little bit better, there was the Harmon Carden 16, which is a monster 150 watt per channel amplifier with watt meters on the front, little LED strips that kind of go up in an angle. Definitely more visually impressive, and at $795, that Harmon Carden 16 was more than double the price of the 12. So unless you had a pair of Magnapans or some really inefficient speakers, you were probably doing just fine with the 12. The wood cabinets on these Harmon Carden amplifiers and preamps they're rare. A lot of people didn't buy them, even though it was only a $40 upgrade. And I know it seems kind of silly, but I love the look of this faceplate. It's just a big chunk of aluminum. You know, it says Citation 12 Deluxe on it. You'd almost have to think while they were designing this that they might have had watt meters or VU meters in mind for this panel. Maybe they just figured, we'll put the meters in the 16, let's keep the 12 at a budget, and we'll offer this wood cabinet with this really cool faceplate just for those that really do want to dress it up a little bit. Because when you look at a 12 without the wood cabinet, it's kind of one of those type things. It's one of those, ugh. And I don't think it takes an expert or somebody that's been in the hobby a long time, or even a tech, to see how well these are designed when you take the top off. You know, Harmon Carden was really good at keeping things simple. Their designs are simple. They're easy to work on. You know, this Model 11, when you get inside of it, you realize they really wanted to make this serviceable. They wanted to make an amplifier and a preamplifier that would really kind of go toe to toe with some of the more premium brands at the time, all the way down to silk screening the voltages on the chassis. I know that might not mean a lot to a lot of you out there, but for somebody that the quality and those details, it is important to, it means everything. There's been several times when either my dad or Rob has one of these apart, a good customer walks in, and the first thing I say, come back and look at this. If you were on the fence about Harmon Carden before, look at the build quality in this. You got removable, serviceable boards. That's tough to say. One caveat, this 5-band EQ is notorious for being kind of noisy. These have fluid in them. And to be honest with you, I don't clean these. If they get staticky, I kind of just leave them the way they are. There's a fluid in there that even with Deoxit F5 or Fader Lube, I feel like it strips some of that oil or that lubricant out, and they become really stiff. That is the one downside. I think that 5-band EQ can bug some people out there, maybe some on the OCD side. Yeah, for me, it's not the end of the world. I just don't play with it very much. Set it, forget it. And let's spin them around. Let's look at the back. And there's another thing to note, and I don't know if I'm right about this, so put this in the comments for sure. But I've had Citation 12s that have the power cord in the back, and I've had Citation 12s that have the power cord in the front. I definitely prefer the back because when it's in the front, now you've got wires coming out the back for your speakers and your feed from your preamp, but you also have a power cord coming out the front. So no matter how you position it, you're looking at cables. It's just not a very clean look. And maybe that's the difference between the 12 and the Deluxe. You know, with the Deluxe and the cabinet, they put the power cord on the back. D. Lucy, if you're watching, let me know. I did try and Google it. I tried to find why they did that, why they changed it, or maybe it was a mid-run change. But I have had both, and I definitely prefer the cord in the back, but that's just me. This is a dual mono construction. There are two transformers built really well. Again, not as pretty on the inside as the 11, but it looks good and it's simple, and that's what I like anyway. The back of the preamplifier, this DIN connector is actually for the speakers. So if you wanted to hook up two sets of speakers to this amplifier, you'd get this DIN cord that would come down to the speaker outputs of your amplifier, and then you'd run your speaker wires off of these binding posts here. And then you could switch between speaker system 1 and speaker system 2, or both. And out of the three systems we're going to talk about today in this video, sonically, I do think this is probably the most neutral. It's not boring, it's not sterile. Harmon Carden, I think they voiced these really neutral. It doesn't dictate what I'm going to listen to. Like one of them on our list definitely does. When I sit in front of it, I don't go, okay, what's going to sound good on that? It'll play anything. It plays it well. Anything from, you know, metal to orchestral to jazz to everything. It does everything really well. And I definitely think these are kind of undervalued. You know, looking on eBay, they're not going for as much as I think they should be, or at least compared to some other brands out there. You know, the Harmon Carden amplifiers and preamplifiers are still kind of sleepers. I think the amplifiers get more recognition or more sought after than the preamps, but I think that's the same across the line. You know, one of the biggest problems people have with vintage electronics are the tone controls, the pots, the volume pots. Anything that you adjust that could potentially get dirty, noisy, staticky. A lot of times those pots are proprietary. They're not easy to change out. In a lot of cases, you end up buying a used working pot that you hope outlives the one you just took out. I think that's why the preamps aren't holding the value like the amplifier, because pairing a nice, new, modern preamp with one of these vintage amplifiers is kind of the best of both worlds. But that's me getting nitpicky, and that's me hypothesizing. I really don't know. I could be totally wrong. I just destroyed the countertop with that thing. Whoops. These things are ridiculous, and they really are. Never ship these things. If you do, buy the box from Macintosh. I don't know how many pictures I've seen on Facebook of people getting their Macintosh piece, especially the amplifiers, and the glass is broke, because you got to ship this thing correctly. I think it's 80 some pounds, and it feels like it when you lift it. This thing is heavy. This one is not heavy. I mean, it's got some weight, but it's not heavy. It'd be a shame to do a video on a Macintosh piece like this and not turn the lights on. I mean, if that doesn't get you, I don't know what to say. I really don't. I mean, when it comes to vintage audio, I don't think it gets better than that. I really don't. That's me being honest with you. You know, I think that is the best looking combo preamplifier amplifier that you can get. Huge power meters. Nice. I mean, it's so nice. Every detail is covered with these things. If that makes me you know, a Macintosh fanboy, or, you know, these aren't for sale. They're mine. I'm not trying to sell anybody these. I'm not hoping somebody's going to call me and offer me a stupid amount of money for them. I'm not selling them. All right, so the Macintosh 2105 and C26. These were in production from 1967 all the way through 1978. That is a long run for anything in electronics. Was it 12 years? 11 years. And in 1970, the MSRP on the 2105 was $649 and the C26 was $449. The 2105 has 105 watts per channel. And why most of the time we would say it has 105 watts per channel into an 8 ohm load. The Macintosh 2105 is different. They used Macintosh's autoformers, but essentially what this does, you have 3 taps on the back of the amplifier for 4 ohm, 8 ohm, or 16 ohm. What it allows the amplifier to do, and I'm going to quote them on this, in a nutshell, Macintosh amplifiers with the output autoformer will deliver all the power you pay for, regardless of the speaker type chosen. Really what they're saying is you're getting 105 watts, whether you're going into an 8 ohm speaker, a 16 ohm speaker, or a 4 ohm speaker. Some people think that's why Macintosh have that tube-like sound is because of those autoformers. I don't know if that's true. I think they're on the warm side. It's kind of that Macintosh legendary warm sound. It's not rolled off, but it's also not like super detailed either. Definitely on the warm side, but not quite tube-like. Sorry, it's the best I got. Another really cool design feature that Macintosh did with these amplifiers and preamplifiers are these pan locks. And if you haven't owned a Macintosh, you might not know that these pan locks are essentially a release. So you can push them in and slide it out. You know, you don't need to remove any screws to get this preamplifier out of this wood cabinet. It's like a sliding drawer that you pull out, you push the tabs and it comes all the way out. This is the same thing. I imagine when these were new, they probably worked a lot better, but you know, at this point they are starting to get a little bit sticky and you do kind of have to work them out a little bit. They are still functioning, they do still work. They lock the component in the cabinet and they do make it easy to pull it out if you need to. And with the C26, you might need to. There's actually 2 controls on the top of this. One is for phase control and the other one is for center channel level. And on the back here, there's an RCA output, a mono output that you could run to a mono amplifier for a center channel. And this would be how you would control that. I've never hooked up a center channel to this unit. It's an option, I guess. I'm gonna power it off and spin it around. And one other thing Macintosh did that kind of drives me nuts is they didn't just do red and black like everybody else. And it makes me scratch my head every time I hook up speakers to one of these. Because white is the common for the right channel and green is the positive for the left channel. So a little bit confusing, you get used to it and most likely you only have to do it once if you're a normal person. I do think some people out there assume that that extra money they're spending on a Macintosh piece is going to get them that much better sound. And you know, when you look back here and you see, you know, this is a chrome plated chassis, you know, there's a good amount of money in that for something that unless you take this thing out of the wood cabinet, you're not going to get to enjoy or appreciate or see. But, you know, for a lot of people, it's not just about the sound. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be. It's like a luxury car though too. You know, it is just getting you to the same place. It's how it gets you there that makes you want to spend the extra money for those extra luxuries, that extra quality, that experience. You know, not to get too wine snobby, but Macintosh is just another level, you know? They just are. I can't afford new Macintosh. There's no question. If it wasn't for vintage Macintosh being serviceable, I wouldn't ever be a customer. And for those of you that can afford new Macintosh, like the new Macintosh subwoofer, you know, good on you. No jealousy, maybe a little bit of envy, and that's okay. I'm good with it. I'd love to hear it. Enjoy it. You know, and you really can't talk about Macintosh either without looking at resale value. You know, this is like buying a muscle car. You know, this is repairable. They're still helping us repair these, unlike almost every brand out there. So while the beginning investment is a little bit higher, I think they're going to follow right along with a 67 Mustang or a 1971 Barracuda. This video is brought to you by Skylabs and our new hoodies. These hoodies are screen printed here in Des Moines, Iowa, and shipped to you by me from our store. I really want to thank you for supporting the channel and our small business here in West Des Moines, Iowa by shopping at skylabsaudio.com. Really appreciate it. Thank you. I actually had to disassemble this one real quick because we've been listening to this amplifier for the last few days. It's nice because it's easy to move. You know, I can go back in the back, grab it, put it on the bench and hook some speakers to it and not break my back. That Macintosh sucks. But this is Dino. This is a ST70 or a Stereo 70 and then a Pass 2. And I believe this is a second generation Pass 2. The first ones had like the brown knobs on it and such. If I'm wrong, definitely let me know. They came in maybe 6-8 months ago, maybe a year. And they came in working, not restored. And so the first thing I did was I put them on the bench. I grabbed my little PSB speakers, hooked those up, and I was blown away, cold. You know, they hadn't been warmed up and they sounded incredible. You know, you can tell even with, not that PSBs are bad speakers, but the speakers I'm talking about, they're not the greatest thing in the world. But I've heard so many things on those speakers that I know when I hook something up to them that really impresses me, I know it's good. And that's the reaction I had to these. I immediately gave them to Rob and I said, build these like you would build them for you. I like these. So Rob ordered all the parts and we did quite a bit. Rob did quite a bit. They sound awesome. I mean, this is one of my favorite tube systems out there. You know, I'm not alone, obviously, because online people have speculated that possibly 350,000 ST70s were sold. And that tells you something. Let's take the top off, take a look. I'm not gonna plug them in. You know what tubes look like when they're on. It's as simple gets. If the Macintosh is a Cadillac, this is a hot rodded 57 Chevy. That's the way I look at it. This is kind of the blue collar, audiophile, possibly do-it-yourself amplifier because these were sold in either kit form or pre-assembled. There are so many modifications you can get for the ST70. You can trick these things out to do whatever you want it to do. For anybody out there that, you know, likes tinkering on the weekends or wants to try a DIY project, you know, you can pick up an ST70 and pretty much tackle it yourself. You could get pre-made boards, everything you would need to take one of these to as good a condition as it can be. And the same with the little preamp, the Pass 2. And full disclosure, this is not my favorite preamp, tube preamp. It's really colorful. This has kind of a dark sound to it. And I'm not alone in that again. A lot of people bypass the tone controls to try and get some clarity back to it. And evidently that works. I left this one intact because it's not my daily driver. If I pull this out, it's because I'm wanting to hear that Dino tube vintage sound. You know, most likely I'm gonna listen to Tony Bennett, maybe some Sergio Mendes, stuff like that. That's what I wanna listen to, and this is what I wanna listen to it on. Because it is colored. There is a lot of colorization. This is not a transparent preamplifier. To me, it sounds like an early 60s, late 50s tube stereo system. If you're looking for a true nostalgic piece of American stereo history, it's right here. You know, it's almost impossible to sit in front of these and not think about what music's been played through them, who built them, or did they buy them pre-built? How many graduations, how many Christmases, how many holidays were these Dinicos responsible for playing music and entertaining an entire family? That's where my mind goes every time I sit in front of these. And, you know, again, it's that experience. And if something helps you get to some place in your mind that you find enjoyable, then it's something you need to try. At least that's the way I feel. And until you've heard Sergio Mendes, on an old tube amplifier, you haven't heard Sergio Mendes. If you like that video, we think you'll definitely like this one.